Hey guys, welcome to the War Room. We are going to be discussing the last half of how God's burden is light and the world's burden is heavy. Before we start, I want to start out with prayer. God, thank you for another day. Thank you for bringing everybody here. Thank you for fixing the laptop. And thank you for drawing us all near and closer to you and bringing us through another week. Help us be able to grow our faith in you. In Yeshua's name, amen. Last videos we talked about how Jesus bore all of our sins. But in this video we're going to be talking about how all we have to do is hold on to our faith. Some questions you might have is, what is faith? How do you get faith? How do you hold on to your faith? I'm struggling with my faith. That last one wasn't really a question, more like a statement, but still. The truth is, a lot about faith can be found out in here. The Bible, which is basically what all my videos are about, and you can tell mine has been well worn over the last couple of years. But that by no means makes me like the champion of faith. Like, everybody struggles with their faith, and that's why we're supposed to come together in fellowship, and you'll learn more about that in the video. And to be honest, I was saved about a year and a half ago, so like I've had this Bible for 6 years. Most of it I've read just mostly if I was reading it with my family, and I just recently, like probably 3 years ago, stopped falling asleep while reading it. So a faith thing, like, don't be ashamed of where your faith is, because everybody's faith has a chance to grow into like awesome faith, if that makes any sense. So instead of me just sitting here talking to you guys staring at the screen, not really understanding what I'm talking about yet, let's talk about it. Yeah? No? Okay. Over the history of mankind, faith has been discussed in different ways and in different styles, but I'm going to be discussing like 4 different things about faith and how to keep it up and everything like that. Hopefully it's going to fit in 4 videos because I don't want to make them too long. But this video is going to be about how to get faith in the first place, because you can't really grow a plant if you don't plant the seed first, right? Faith is so powerful that in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 16, it says, "Above all, take up the shield of faith, so it can quench all the fiery darts of the enemy." So not only is it part of the armor of God, it said above all else, above all of the other pieces of the armor, put on your shield of faith. And that just shows us how important faith in God is. And we're going to be explaining more about that in the video. We don't even have to have big faith, because faith starts out small and then it grows. And you can see that in Mathew chapter 17, verse 20. In this, we see what little faith can do when it grows. It says, "I tell you the truth, if you had faith as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it would move. Nothing would be impossible." And do you know how small the mustard seed is compared to the mustard tree? Like, it's a big difference. I mean, take disciple Peter for example. He's one of the most famous disciples. Even if you're not Christian, you probably heard about Saint Peter, or you've heard the name Peter, and everybody names their child Peter. He was that famous. But his faith was definitely not always tree size. And most of the disciples' faith was not always tree size, because even Jesus said, "O ye of little faith." He was talking to the disciples. In Luke chapter 22, verse 54 through 62, I'm not going to read it, but you can read it for yourself. Jesus even predicts that Peter would deny him 3 times, deny that he ever knew him, because he wanted to save his life. That's not the tree-sized faith. That's more of the mustard seed-sized faith that we're seeing here. But we see that Peter goes on to grow, and Jesus forgave him. How many people do you know that you deny that you know them when they're dying for you, and they still forgive you? That's the kind of love that Jesus has for us, and that's how much he wants you to have faith in him. That even when we don't have faith in him anymore, he still has faith in us. If Jesus would have lost his faith in Peter, then the gospel wouldn't have spread as far as it did. Jesus even predicts that we'll sin against him, and God knows that we're going to sin against him. In Romans 3:23, it states that all have fallen short of the glorious standard, the standard that God set for us, the standard that he wants us to be able to be just like free of worry and just no longer sinning, and all of us fall from that standard. Every single human did except for Jesus. That's why he came, so he could show us an example, and even when we didn't hit the mark, which we don't, nobody does, there was grace and mercy. In Romans 5:20 it states, God's law was given so that people could see how sinful they were. But as people sinned more and more, God's grace became more and more abundant. So you can see that God didn't just show us our sins just to say, you're imperfect and everything like that. But in fact, just like a teacher, he marked what was wrong on the test and gives it back to you and says, try again. Instead of just saying, oh, you got this wrong, you failed, try again. That's what he wants us to do. So the more we sin and everything like that doesn't mean that we should sin, but it means usually people that are in different situations, because somebody who grew up in church is people think they have a better advantage getting salvation than somebody that grew up in a crack house. But where there's more sin, grace abounds more. So if there's less sin, then there's less need for grace. So God makes it an even playing ground for everybody. So everybody has the same shot at salvation. Nobody has a greater advantage. And we see even Jesus understanding how hard it is to believe in a guy that was born and died 2,000 years ago. He sees how hard that might be and how hard holding on to that faith might be. So first of all, God created the Bible and had people write the Bible. And apart from that, in John chapter 20 verse 29 it says, Then Jesus told him, You believe me because you have seen me. Blessed are those who believe without seeing me. So there's a blessing in believing in Jesus and believing in the truth when you don't see it. Faith is so much stronger when you believe in something that you don't see, but yet there's proof of. Because faith definitely has a lot of proof. The more you walk with Jesus and God, there's a lot of truth, and most of it you're going to find right in here. Not the taco, in your heart. Yeah, you're going to find a lot of it. Okay, so that is all into the next video, next week hopefully, if my computer doesn't break again. So God willing it won't. I just want to send you guys off with a prayer. May God bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May he lift up his countenance and give you peace and keep you safe throughout the week. And Father, have their faith to grow in you. In Yeshua's name, amen. Bye!